We are live. Hey Vince, welcome to Insights from Philly. I'm so glad you can make it today. Thanks for being a guest.
Great, hey, great to Craig to connect back with you, Craig. I'm down as you know, I'm down in Jupiter, Florida, and we feel pretty safe down here. So not too populated. So yeah, it's good to talk to you, man. It was fun to talk to you just offline here, about the Philly connection and all
Yeah,
the things that
yeah,
are going
yeah.
on. Yeah.
So I have a new thing that I just started doing. So I'm going to put it to you. So in no particular order,
All right.
like when you think of Philly, like what are the three things that come to your mind first? Like what says Philly to Vince Papale?
Well, first of all, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Liberty Bell, and Frank Rizzo. How's that?
All right, all right.
And passion. I had to throw passion in there. I
Well, you
love it.
can't go wrong with that.
Yeah.
Well, this show's called Insights from Philly, and the reason is we're trying to, especially in this tough time right now, we want our viewers to get an understanding of, how did you overcome some things that were in your way, on your way to success. It wasn't you didn't wake up one day and they made a movie about you. You had some tough times. Tell me about that.
Well, it's a lot. Some of it when I was growing up, my mom and dad never got beyond the eighth grade. I grew up in Glen Olden, just south, right off of 95 at the 420 exit. Went to Interborough High School, and growing up, my mom suffered from anxiety and schizophrenia, and so it was difficult. And we grew up in a housing project that's no bigger than the garage that I'm shooting that I'm in right now down here. And things were tough. And thank God though for teachers and coaches at Interborough Junior High School, and they sort of took me under their wing and got me through those rough times as I was growing up, going through puberty. I was a small kid. I wasn't at 14 years old, wasn't even 100 pounds, not even 5 feet tall. And coming from a housing project, they were saying, I lived on the other side of the track. I was getting bullied. They were making fun of my mother. Word got out that she was having some issues, and it wasn't nice. And the way I dealt with it basically was is I just absorbed myself in sports as much as I could, and it wasn't as if my father wasn't caring. It was he worked at Westinghouse on the river. They were on strike half the time, and with all my mom's medical bills, all the insurance was gone. There was always seemed to be some financial strife going on, and then it was just it was athletics. That this thing that was my escape, and I was a big fan of every sport. Of course, we didn't have hockey back then, but we had the major three, and we had the Phillies and Robin Roberts, and we had Wilt Chamberlain and the 76ers, the Warriors, the Philadelphia Warriors. They played at the convention center. A lot of you kids out there, the convention centers where Children's Hospital is right now, right around that neighborhood. And of course, the Eagles. And at that time, they were Franklin Field, and Tommy McDonald was my idol. So I would fantasize a lot, and then when I got into high school, and I became a pretty successful high school athlete, a three letterman in my senior year. That was a real good thing for me to cope with all the stuff that was going on, and then I get the scholarship to St. Joe's to run track in the pole vault, and that was it. For me, it sort of put everything aside and enabled me to get through a lot of things. But initially, what it was, Craig, it was just the people that were my advocates, my teachers, my coaches, and my father and mother's family. They both came from Nine, and so my cousins were a big influence on me as well. Of course, the kids I grew up with in the project. But then the big one comes. It's the Eagles, and I'm 30 years old, haven't played college football, coaching, teaching in Interborough, working my master's at Westchester, and they were coming at me pretty bad, then. And so what I had to do is I had to eliminate the noise and just convince myself that I could reinvent myself from a track guy, which I was a potential Olympic decathlete, or at least qualifying for the Olympic trials, and from going and reinventing from a track guy and a school teacher and a coach to go into the NFL was unheard of, and people reminded me of that, and you don't have the right resume, you don't have the right pedigree, you don't come from the right background. And then you had the entitled, and not the entitled like those in Social Security, but the draft picks. I called them the entitled. They thought that when I was going into camp, they thought I was going to write a book, a novel. They thought I was a snitch.
So you were George Plimpton, huh?
Yeah, George Plimpton, Paper Lion. There you go. I'm almost impressed. That was good, Craig. And so I was thinking in the back of my mind. So it was, George Plimpton and all those things, and they were coming at me pretty hard. But what really helped me get through it is my the kids at Interborough, the guys I coached, those that I taught. They were all coming to Widener when I was at training camp and watching me chase this dream, and they were there every day, just cheering me on. And it was like in the movie. I ran every time I caught a ball. I'd run into the end zone, and it used to piss the defensive backs off to no end because I thought I was trying to show them up. But I'd get a great reaction from the stands. And guys, I was playing in a rough touch league. I played for the Aston Knights at Sun Valley High School. I played for Tinicum AC. I played in about 4 or 5 of these bar rough touch leagues. And so they all started to come and were cheering me on. So that was, and then once you start believing in yourself, that's the key, as everybody knows. Once you get that confidence in yourself, then the whole thing just turned. And I got the great opportunity by Coach Ramil to have the ultimate dream came true. And there it is. And, memorialized now by my man, Mark Wahlberg, who was here right there. There's Mark.
Look at that. Well, yeah, I got to tell you, as everybody knows, and those of you don't know, make sure you Netflix up Invincible tonight, the movie that Disney made about Vince, starring Mark Wahlberg. But timing's everything. Your work ethic is second to none, and those guys might have been cheap shotting you, and you kept on getting up off the ground, and that's they tell that story in your movie. But timing's everything too. Like, imagine maybe there's a Vince Papale out there this year, a long shot free agent, who now he may not even get a chance because of the pandemic we're going through and all that type of stuff. Not to mention, you played in a time when you had 2-a-days. These guys don't even know what that means. The type of practices that you guys went through back then. So you had twice as much time to impress those coaches, and you did it at every turn. Tell me what you tell the guy right now that was thinking this is going to be his shot. He was a free agent. How does he impress coaches now in today's 2020 world?
Well, I tell a lot of kids right now, I say that to my son, Vinny, because he's an NFL hopeful, and we'll see what happens there. I tell my daughter, Gabriella, she works for the 76ers, and she's actually down here working, and she's every day online with them doing her stuff. And also my wife, Janet, who was a world-class gymnast and a coach at the University of Penn, not a Giants fan, okay? So, what I tell them is that, first of all, you really have to believe in yourself. And then secondly, you've got to make an impact. Whomever you're trying to impress, make sure that every day you leave them with a thought of you in their mind. And that's what I did when I was with the Eagles at that particular time. One of the greatest quotes I've ever gotten, except for one about dreams, and paying the price after making your dreams come true, came from Dick Vermeil. And you were talking about timing as everything, right? And you just never know, when that call is going to come, that opportunity is going to arise, and you're going to be prepared for it. And how do you prepare yourself for it? And opportunities, Janet, we talk about this all the time. Opportunities come in all kinds of varieties, flavors, tastes, smells, whatever it is. And if you're not ready for it, it can just pass you by. So here's the quote. And it's from Coach Vermeil, and it said, happy are those, it says, an opportunity is worth to a person exactly what their preparation enables them to make it. So whatever that dream, whatever that goal, whatever that vision is that you have, just make sure that you're prepared in the ultimate way to get it done. And then I always say, well, what's part of the preparation process, Craig? And, there's the potential side of things. And that's another great quote from Dick Vermeil. The greatest waste of mankind is a waste of potential. You go to Vince Lombardi, sounds like I'm giving you one of my speeches, but you go to Vince Lombardi. Lombardi says its potential is something you ain't done yet, right? So everybody has within them that potential, and then you tie that into the opportunity. Well, then how do you take advantage of that? And this is my deal. I just call it analyze, adapt, and achieve. Just get as much as you know about whatever this opportunity is, and in some cases, it might be an opponent, and making sure you know everything you can about them, including yourself, making sure that you're not your own worst opponent. That's number one. The analyze the adapt part is have your different plans, your game plans, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, and you don't go in with one, because if that gets shot down, you got to be able to, as I call it, the analyze adapt is have your audible. Jack Zorro is in the movie, you know. So that's the audibles, and then the next thing is achieve. Just get it done. Give it everything you have. You know, for me, my attitude, Craig, when I was trying out in '76 was, I 100% wasn't good enough. It had to be 110, had to be 120%. If I didn't feel every day I was out on the practice field, look, I went into training camp at 198, and I came out after 8 weeks of double sessions at 180. That's how much.
Wow.
That's how much weight I had lost,
Wow.
and my legs were shot. Thank God I was only a special teams guy then. I didn't have to run routes all the time. But you know, it's all about this thing called preparation, and there's so many other metaphors that I could play into it. But you know, if anything, belief in yourself, surround yourself with positive people. Don't let the negative noise affect you. Get rid of negativity. Get rid of those that aren't going to be a positive influence on your life, and I call that, it's called the bucket of crabs. Is get rid of the bucket of crabs. You know, the top crowd, you try to get away, they're all trying to pull you back down. Get rid of them. You got to get rid of the bucket of crabs, and then just take off, give it a shot. And then what happens if you don't make it? Well, you dust yourself off, you know, hopefully get yourself back up, and then find another goal, another dream, another vision, and take off and do the same
That Philly grit, right?
Yeah, that's all grit. That's all Philly. I mean, and I learned so much just by watching guys from Philly. You know, guys that I watched in the semi-pro leagues when I was a kid that my dad would take me to. I'd go to the stock car races at where Wells Fargo used to be where they had the Army Navy game. You know, that's where I had the free agent tryout at Municipal Field. And my dad would take me to the stock car races, and you'd be around such gritty people. And that to me is what made me, I think, what I am, is just the grit and the passion and the energy and the work ethic that I got from those people that are around me, especially my father and all those men back then. You know, the wives, very few had the wives, you know, the mothers, they were in the homes. They had a certain term for them, you know, and the housewives and the fathers were all working mostly on the rivers and working shift work, you know, or double shifts. And here I am growing up in a housing project in Glendale Heights, they call it, right across from the McDade Mall, McDade Boulevard. And there it is. And that toughened me up for almost any battle that I could possibly get into.
You know, it's interesting. One of the things I kind of heard from you just then, and I've been working with pro athletes since 88, late 88, early 89. And back then, a lot of the guys, you know, they would use training camp to get in shape. Not everybody, but a
Right.
good many of them. Now the pro athletes, they're in shape. They might take a week or two off to let their body heal after the season's over, but they're in shape, you know, throughout the whole year. That being said, a lot of guys now, they don't have a home gym and they can't go to a gym. So there's a lot of players out there that are they're kind of coming back at a different level of conditioning. So maybe that the free agent, maybe he's out and doing pull-ups on a tree or something like that and making do. And instead of, you know, doing the route that he was going to, maybe he's working out 3 times a day doing different stuff that maybe kind of gives him that leg up.
Well, that was me. You know, I was that guy, you know, back then in 1976, even before that. The weights, I didn't know what a weight room was. I'm sweating. Vermeil had a great saying, it's nobody ever drowned in sweat. I love Vermeil's sayings. But, you know, I was all these core exercises, all this stuff that everybody's doing now, the burpees and the doing this and the doing that. I was doing that 40 years ago, for crying out loud. That was my training regimen. I never walked into a gym. I would have been intimidated walking into a gym, seeing all the guys in there, you know, and I just couldn't. That wasn't part of it. But see, for me, it's all part of a cardiovascular training. I didn't start a workout, for example, Craig, without running at least 3 miles. That was, of course, when I wasn't at practice. This was when I'm going to get into my training regimen. I'd go out and pop 3 miles in there. And you know, now, like here, I'll just use my son Vinny as an example. So he comes out of the University of Delaware last year, and he finds out he's been invited to his coach at the University of Delaware. He's been asked to come down to Boca Raton and train with a guy by the name of Tony Villani, a place right across from FAU, and it's called XPE. So Vinny goes down there, and he's down there with 25 or 30 NFL hopefuls, and who happens to be training and working with a man, Quan Bolden.
Nice.
And and Vinny, he popped a 4.5 in his camp, but he had a little bit of a core surgery, and so that sort of knocked him out. Now he's back, but he came back to train with those guys. Then now the gym, of course, is closed down, but the work ethic is there, and so how do you do it? Well, you have to find it within yourself, and I help a little bit, but you brought up a good point. Is these free agents are really in a good position that there might be something available for them now, because the inventory is not going to be as flooded as it was because all the pro days were canceled. So, we'll see how it works out. But it's not about athletics; it's about anything. Whether it's you're an entrepreneur or you're trying to get through what's going on today. I'm starting a new thing. I'm doing it on Instagram, Vince Papelli 83, and on my Facebook, and I'm asking people to give me what their silver lining is. We're hearing every day. You turn on the noise. I mean, you turn on the news and you hear the noise, and this prediction, that model, this, that. I mean, you come out, your head's like ready to explode. The speaking engagements are all gone. All the closings for my wife's, they're all gone. And so what do? You try to find that, and going right to Bradley Cooper's great movie, Silver Lining Playbook.
Yeah, that's great. I like that.
Take the Philly angle.
Yeah.
And so I'm asking people to give the silver lining. Mine. I've got Gabrielle, I've got Vinny, and I've got Janet down here, where there's very few. Where we are in the county we're in, there's very few cases, and it's a single hand for the deaths, and they were those of that had pre-existing conditions and those things. So, we didn't come down for any other reason, just to get in a less populated area and in a warm area, because back then we were told that, if you're around where it's hot, the chances of transmission of the virus through the air is going to be less.
The silver lining thing. In fact, I'll have to send you this article I just wrote. So I'll tell you this real quick before I let you go. It's about 3 weeks ago. I woke up. Wasn't in a great mood. A couple of the deals that I had, fell through, like everything else. People weren't, So I was trying to figure out what I'm going to do. And that morning, I had my morning meditation. I came out of that, and I said, I'm gonna create a music fest to benefit out of work indie music venue workers, and put it together. I'll send you the artwork, and the things happen. In May 1st through 3rd, I got 10 big name musicians that are donating their time. And, we got sponsors, and the thing's going to be broadcast. And talk about a silver lining. Like, I've been doing this almost 10 hours a day, every day since then. I've barely been watching any TV because, like, I'm so into this thing, and it's not about what I lost. It's about helping these other people. And it's just, I'm feeling good about it. So
yeah, well, that's a great thing.
You know what it's called? It's called Love from Philly.
That's it. That's it. Hey, love. I'll have to show you. I have one of the greatest pictures ever of my wife Janet and me at Love Park, because when she was pregnant with Gabriella 26 years ago, we lived right over by the art museum. And Vinny, when he was born 23 years ago, we're there. So we have a great picture in Love Park and the Love statue. But that's so Philly, man. And that's what makes Philly so special. When I go into Boston, I go into Dallas, I come down here, they say, you got a Philly accent. Really? Yeah, how you
proud
doing?
of it too, right?
Right, how you doing? I love the rodeos. I don't know if anybody's seen those rodeos video with Vinny and whatever her name is. It's just so funny, man. It just kills me. But I'm missing Philly. I can't wait to get home. But we can't. They're not going to let us in.
Well, looking forward to seeing you, and thanks for being a guest again, and thanks for to let everybody know that you're helping out the South Jersey Food Bank, because they're in need. And you're just, you're a class act, Vince, and I always appreciate your time. And we'll talk soon, man. And if you have things to say to the audience.
Oh yeah, obviously most importantly is stay safe, stay healthy, stay as isolated as you can. Just sort of stay away. But more importantly, stay focused, stay strong. Find that silver lining. There could be one every day. Find that silver lining, and just embrace life and just be invincible. Stay invincible. We can do this, and as I always say, it takes teamwork to make the dream work. And we're all dreaming of that day when we all get back together again and be together as a group, and it's going to come. You got to believe it, as Doug McGraw says. You got to believe. So I'll leave you with that.
Thanks, Vince. All right, man.
You got it, buddy.
Care.
Thanks, Craig.
Out of the
Ross,
white
man.
for me.
You're
All right.
invincible.
Take care, man. See you.
Thanks, dude.
All right. All right. And broadcast.